You do this every single night and it feels completely normal. Your phone on the nightstand, the charger plugged in, you fall asleep and forget about it. But at some point, you heard that warning. Don't leave it charging overnight, it overheats. You're damaging the battery. So people started changing their habits, unplugging early, waking up in the middle of the night, feeling like they were slowly ruining their phone. But none of that was ever the real problem. Because what is actually damaging your battery right now is something almost nobody even thinks to look for. Ladies and gentlemen, what is actually damaging your phone's battery? This is where the rule came from. That warning didn't come out of nowhere. It came from real experience, from real batteries, just not the ones inside your phone today. In the 1980s and 90s, early rechargeable batteries had a real problem. They used nickel-cadmium chemistry, and they suffered from something called the memory effect. If you charged them before they were fully drained, they would start remembering that lower capacity. Over time, they would lose their ability to hold a full charge. People learned this the hard way. The rule became simple. Drain it completely, then plug it back in. There are still people who follow this rule very carefully. It is actually exhausting. But back then, it made perfect sense. The problem is, this rule never disappeared, even after the technology it was designed for became obsolete. So what was actually damaging your battery? The technology changed, the advice didn't. Modern smartphones use lithium-ion batteries. They became mainstream in the mid-1990s and now power everything, from laptops to electric vehicles. Lithium-ion chemistry is completely different. It has little to no memory effect. In fact, it is more accurate to say it doesn't have it at all. It doesn't need to be fully drained. In fact, draining it all the way to zero puts more stress on the battery. But old habits don't disappear easily. That's why these warnings continued to spread. From the 1990s all the way to today, year after year, they kept spreading, often presented as something urgent and critical. Meanwhile, the technology had already moved on. What your phone is actually doing. So what actually happens when you leave your phone charging overnight? When your battery reaches 100%, it doesn't keep pulling power. Inside every modern smartphone, there is a battery management system, a small but highly advanced controller. It continuously monitors voltage, temperature, charge cycles, and current. When the battery is full, it stops active charging. If it drops slightly overnight, say to 99%, it tops it back up. Then it stops again. These are small cycles for safety and maintenance. They happen automatically. They run quietly while you sleep. You might think your phone is being filled with electricity for hours, but in reality, it is regulating itself. That's why overcharging in the old sense no longer applies. The hardware simply doesn't allow it, and it hasn't for years. But that's not the end of the story. The real problem was never charging. So, if overnight charging isn't the problem, what actually damages your battery? Heat. Yes, you heard that right. Heat. Sustained and consistent heat. Lithium-ion batteries are sensitive to temperature. When they stay warm for long periods, especially during charging, or even just sitting in your pocket on a hot day, the aging process speeds up. The electrolyte breaks down faster. The electrodes wear unevenly. Over time, the battery holds less energy. You usually notice it after 2 or 3 years. A phone that once lasted all day now needs charging by mid-afternoon. This is where overnight charging can become a problem. But not because of the charging itself, because of where the phone is. Under a pillow, inside a blanket, inside a thick case, or in your pocket or your bag on a hot day, anywhere heat gets trapped. In those conditions, your phone stays warmer than it should, for hours. And that heat causes slow, cumulative damage. The problem was never the charging time. The real issue was always heat. And no, don't try to cool your phone by putting it in a freezer, because there's more to this than just temperature alone. The hidden stress on your battery. Lithium-ion batteries don't just dislike heat, they also don't like staying at 100% for long periods. Chemically, a battery at 100% is under more stress than one sitting at 80%. That's why some phones limit charging to 80%. The cells are at maximum voltage. It creates a small but real strain. It's not dangerous, you won't notice it short term, but over years it adds up. Manufacturers know this. That's why modern phones use optimized charging. Your phone learns your routine, when you plug it in, when you wake up, and it adapts, charging slowly overnight and reaching 100% right before you wake up. It solves the problem without you even noticing. And honestly, isn't that both safer and more convenient? Think about it. Your phone protects its own battery better than you do. That's incredible. Fast charging matters too. One moment you plug it in, and 30 minutes later, it's full. It's useful, it's safe, but it generates more heat, which means slightly more stress over time. Using it every day isn't a problem, but understanding the long-term effect matters. So, what's the truth? So, does charging your phone overnight actually destroy the battery? Not the way most people think. That fear comes from older technology, back when batteries needed careful handling. But lithium-ion changed everything. And phones were designed for that. They monitor themselves. They stop when full. They slow down when hot. Engineering accounts for real human behavior. Every battery degrades over time. That's not a flaw, that's chemistry. But the things that speed it up, heat, extreme temperatures, constant fast charging, those matter. Leaving your phone on your nightstand, plugged in a cool room, that's not killing your battery. It never really was. This is WWH, where we explore the hidden stories behind the things you see every day. If this video made you think or helped you see things differently, like the video, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments. Goodbye.